Hello and welcome to Guns and Gear. And tonight I thought I would make a video talking about camp guns. Okay, now these are not the guns that you take with you when you're camping to shoot, but guns you may choose to bring with you for security, for defense. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, I guess we should first define the type of camping scenarios that I will be discussing. And for me, that's basically two types, okay? It would be camping in a tent in a campground with established campsites and everything and lots of folks around. And then there's remote camping, which is the camping that I've done the most. And that's either done in a tent or a tarp, things of that nature. If the weather's good, I've slept under the stars. At any rate, since a young boy, that's the camping that I have done the most. And one thing my father always did was he always brought a gun. Now you may ask yourself, why would you need a gun when you're going camping? Well, there is several different reasons. Some of those are the same reasons that we carry a gun at home. Okay, we carry a gun when we're out in public. Some people will try to harm us. And if you're in a remote area, there's no one to call for help. You have to be self-sufficient. So with that, let's go ahead and discuss some of those firearms now. Now, this here is an old Winchester Model 94 30-30. It's a great little gun. I started using this when I was a young teenager. And you know, the 30-30 round is an excellent round for dispatching either two-legged or four-legged critters. And it's very light and handy. There's nothing special about this gun, but for some of you folks that know a little something about Winchesters, you can look at the bolt pattern and tell it's an older model. But it's a good shooting gun. Now this is a gun that you've seen in a few videos. This is an M1 Garand that my father built for me. And I know you may be thinking, holy cow, that's quite a lot of gun to be carrying on a camping trip. And I agree that it is, but for a long time this was my rifle. And I took it on the camping trips, and I tell you what, there's probably no kind of contingency that you can come up with that an M1 Garand wouldn't fill the bill. Now, in my 20s, I picked up this Mossberg 500, and I bought it in a pawn shop. It didn't look anything at all like this. I've changed out a lot of stuff on it, but the way I have this gun set up now, I pretty much consider this a great example of what a camp gun should be. It's a 12-gauge pump-action shotgun. It has a 21-inch barrel that accepts the choke tubes in it. It's a vent rib barrel. And I've added the Tacstar ammo carrier on there and the Knox stock, okay, which has a recoil reducing aspect to it. Now this is a great little shotgun. I originally set this thing up for hunting, believe it or not. A lot of areas around here that I have an opportunity to hunt, it's real thick cover, swamp bottom type stuff, and it's hard to maneuver through there. And a nice little short barrel gun like this is just an easier way to go. But the way that I put this gun together now, to me it fills a lot of different roles. This, in my opinion, would also be a great gun if you had to leave under some kind of emergency your home. Any type of scenario where you may be on your own, there may be hostile folks to deal with, or critters. This gun right here would really be an excellent choice. Now, you know, my dad, like I said, he always had a gun with him. And when we went camping, my father's perfect, or his favorite I should say, camp gun was an old Ithaca road blocker. And for those of you that may not be too familiar with that, that's a 10-gauge pump-action shotgun, and it had a short barrel on there. It was actually designed for law enforcement for stopping cars. But at any rate, that was my dad's favorite gun. He always liked big guns, big calibers, things of that nature. I gotta admit, I do too. And I remember we were on a trip, I'll tell you a quick story, and I was some friends of his. And he had that old gun sitting up against a tree. And one of his friends walked up there and picked that thing up and says, "Holy cow, man, this is a 10 gauge. What in the world do you need a 10 gauge for?" And my dad was always quick with a one-liner. He kind of looked at the guy and said, "Well, that's because I don't like to repeat myself. One round of 10 gauge is just about sufficient for anything." Thought that was a pretty good comeback. But for some of you folks that feel the same way, Ithaca road blockers are no longer made. I think it was Remington that ended up buying it. And Remington and Browning do make pumps and 10 gauge. You may want to pick yourself up a nice 10 gauge double barrel. This would really be an excellent firearm if you were worried about grizzlies invading or maybe a herd of Sasquatch. This would definitely do the trick. And if that didn't have enough firepower for you, well then, by golly, this would be the ticket right here. This is an AR by Alexander Arms, and it's in 50 Beowulf. Okay. Now the 50 Beowulf round is a powerful round, and especially in short and moderate ranges, and it gives you quite a bit more capacity. And this, I tell you what, you could defend yourself against hordes of Sasquatch with this thing. Now most folks that carry guns and have guns with them, they often bring a handgun, and I'm no different. And to me, there's two different categories of handguns that I look to when I go camping. If I'm remote camping, I'm open carrying, and that allows me to carry a bigger gun. Okay, and some of those guns right here, this is a Smith & Wesson Model 629 in 44 Magnum. Yeah, this is the Dirty Harry gun. But I have a 5-inch barrel on this, and it has a full underlug. And I tell you what, I find this as a very good compromise for size and weight. It's a small enough barrel that it's not too cumbersome to carry around with me. But it does have quite a bit of weight to it. Although weight really hasn't been that much of an issue for me. The gun that I carried before this was a Ruger Red Hawk in 41 Magnum, and that was a heavy gun. Another gun that I've carried often is this Ruger GP100. Now this has a 6-inch barrel, and to me, for a camp gun, for a gun that I'm going to be carrying around all day, this is about the maximum length of a barrel that I would want. Now, you know, to each their own, but if you had a Smith & Wesson with an 8 3/8-inch barrel, to me that's just too cumbersome. But this is a good gun, and 357 Magnum with the right loads. I know Federal made some 180 grain hard cast bullets. Double tap, I believe, makes 180 grain. If I'm not mistaken, even a 200 grain bullet. Those would be very potent to stop something like a feral hog or a bear or something of that nature. So 357 Magnum is a good round. And here's another example of that. You know, my father, he carried a lot. He carried a Colt single action, a 45 Colt. And this is becoming a pretty great gun for me to carry around. This is a Ruger, and this is the 50th anniversary Ruger. It's made to look like the old flat tops. And this is also in 357 Magnum. Has a much shorter barrel, 4 1/4 inches, I believe. But this is a handy little gun. Shoots great. I really like this gun. Now, more modern guns, I guess you could call them. Once again, when size is somewhat relative to what you're willing to carry. You can carry something like this. This is the Glock Model 20. This is a 10 millimeter. Has plenty of capacity with 15 rounds in the magazine. And with the proper ammunition, it's a rather formidable handgun. And 10 millimeter being one of my favorites, and 1911s being one of my favorites. Got to show you a 10mm 1911. This is a Kimber, and this is a good shooting gun. Really enjoy it, and this has been a good companion for me when I go camping. Now, you know, sometimes if we're camping in a campground or a state park or somewhere where it's established camping areas and there's people around you, even if it's legal to open carry, I usually choose not to. That's my own opinion, to each their own, but I have always liked to be the person who has the gun you don't know about. So in those situations, I do carry concealed. And here's a couple examples that me and my wife use. This right here is a Ruger SP101. It's in .357 Magnum, has a 3-inch barrel. And once again, the .357 Magnum is a very good round for under this roll. And another little dandy little revolver that I have that is quickly becoming one of my favorites for camping and hunting and things of that nature is this Smith & Wesson. This is their Night Guard series, and it's in .44 Special. Now you can get some pretty stout loads in .44 Special, and this gun can handle those stout loads. And it's not too big that you can't conceal it rather easily, and still it carries a lot of power. Great little gun, really like that gun. Well, those are just some of the examples that I have, and what I really wanted to do was to start up a conversation. So you can either leave me a comment or please make a video, and I'll attach it to this, showing me what kind of guns that you might carry when you go camping and why. Okay, I think that'd be a fun little conversation. At any rate, thank you for watching, and remember, shoot straight on the range and in life. Thanks.